You filthy eavesdropper! Victoria Harrington's voice sliced through the opulent dining room like a whip crack, her palm connecting with Elena Thompson's cheek in a resounding slap that echoed off the crystal chandeliers. Elena's head snapped sideways, the sting burning deep into her skin, but she clamped her jaw tight, refusing to let a gasp escape. Victoria's eyes blazed with fury, her manicured nails digging into Elena's arm as she yanked her closer. How dare you sneak around my home, listening to private matters? People like you think you can worm your way in, don't you? Elena straightened, her dark eyes locking onto Victoria's without flinching, the metallic taste of blood on her tongue from biting her lip. I was just cleaning, ma'am, she started, voice steady despite the heat rising in her chest. Cleaning? Huh? Victoria cut her off, shoving Elena back against the polished mahogany table, sending silverware clattering to the floor. Guests at the charity gala froze, their champagne flutes hovering mid-sip, whispers rippling like a storm about to break. Richard Harrington stood rigid in the doorway, his face paling as he watched his wife's outburst unfold. You're nothing but a thief in disguise, stealing glances, stealing secrets. Get out of my sight before I have you arrested for trespassing in your damn job. The slap's red mark bloomed on Elena's brown skin, a stark reminder of the invisible lines drawn in this mansion. She felt the weight of every eye on her, the judgment heavy as lead. But Elena didn't crumble. She squared her shoulders, the fabric of her uniform pulling tight over muscles honed from years of scrubbing floors and biting back retorts. Ma'am, I heard nothing intentional, she tried again, her words clipped, fighting the urge to rub her throbbing cheek. Lies, Victoria snarled, stepping forward, her high heels clicking like gunfire on the marble. She grabbed a vase from the table and hurled it at Elena's feet, shards exploding outward, one nicking Elena's ankle through her thin stockings. Blood welled up, warm and sticky, but Elena didn't step back. The room gasped collectively, a few guests murmuring in discomfort, but no one intervened. Victoria's chest heaved, her pearl necklace rising and falling with each ragged breath. You people always play the victim, don't you? Always expecting handouts while you spy and scheme. Richard, tell this woman she's fired. Richard shifted uneasily, his hand clenching at his side. But he said nothing, his gaze darting between his wife and the maid he'd known for years. Elena's heart pounded, memories flashing of her lost son, the sacrifices she'd made to survive in a world that saw her as disposable. She wiped a trickle of blood from her lip with the back of her hand, smearing it like war paint. If that's what you want, she murmured, voice low but laced with steel. Victoria lunged again, her finger jabbing into Elena's chest. What do I want? I want you gone, erased from this house like the stain you are. The accusation hung in the air, fueling the chaos as more guests backed away, phones subtly pulled out to capture the spectacle. Elena's fists balled at her sides, nails digging into palms to anchor herself against the torrent of insults. The pain in her face mirrored the deeper ache of injustice, years of swallowed pride bubbling up. But Victoria wasn't done. She whirled to the crowd, her voice rising to a shrill command. Security! Remove this intruder now! Two guards materialized from the shadows, their hands rough as they gripped Elena's arms, dragging her toward the exit. Elena twisted, her eyes meeting Victoria's one last time, a silent promise flickering in her gaze. The doors slammed shut behind her, leaving the gala in stunned silence. But the real storm had only begun to brew. Outside, Elena leaned against the cold stone wall of the Manhattan mansion, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The city lights blurred through unshed tears, but she blinked them away, straightening her uniform. She touched the slap's imprint, fingers trembling slightly, and whispered to herself, This isn't over. The night air carried the distant hum of traffic, a reminder of the world beyond these gilded walls, where secrets waited to unravel. Elena's boots hit the gravel driveway with a crunch, the mansion's grand doors slamming shut like a final judgment. She didn't stagger, didn't let her knees buckle under the humiliation's weight. Instead, she drew in a sharp breath, the cool night air slicing through her lungs, steadying her. The slap's fire still raged on her cheek, but she pressed her palm against it, not to soothe, but to fuel the resolve hardening in her gut. Not today, she muttered through gritted teeth, her voice a low rumble that cut the silence. She wouldn't give Victoria the satisfaction of seeing her break. Flashbacks hit her like punches. The day she lost her nursing job after that fabricated accident report. The night scraping by in Brooklyn's crumbling apartments, sending every spare dollar to her kin in Mississippi. Elena's fist clenched tighter, knuckles whitening against her dark skin. She had endured worse. Whispers in hallways, doors slammed in her face, the constant grind of being invisible until someone needed a scapegoat. But this public shredding of her dignity in front of Manhattan's elite, it ignited something fierce, a spark she'd long buried under layers of patience. She turned back toward the glowing windows, where shadows of guests milled about, their laughter resuming as if her pain was just a brief interruption. Elena's eyes narrowed, locking on Victoria's silhouette through the glass, poised, unyielding, already dismissing the chaos she'd unleashed. "One day," Elena whispered, her words carving into the night like a vow, "you'll learn that blood doesn't always come from your womb." The phrase hung heavy, a prophecy born from secrets she alone guarded, about the boy inside that house, the son she'd surrendered to protect him from a world that chewed up families like hers. Without another glance, Elena strode down the driveway, her steps deliberate, each one pounding defiance into the ground. The security guards watched from the gate, their grips still fresh on her arms, but she met their stares with unblinking calm, forcing them to look away first. No tears fell. She wouldn't waste them here. Instead, she channeled the ache into motion, her mind racing ahead to the subway ride home, the cramped room waiting with its single bulb and stack of unpaid bills. She fished her phone from her pocket, fingers steady as she texted her sister. "Rough night, still standing." Simple words, but they masked the storm inside. The rage at Victoria's venom, the exhaustion from years of biting her tongue. As she reached the street, the city's roar enveloped her, horns blaring, pedestrians rushing past without a second look. Elena blended in, just another face in the crowd, but her spine stayed ramrod straight. She remembered Marcus, the man who'd promised her the world before the Harringtons crushed him. Framed, bankrupted, driven to that final, desperate act. Their son Alex, now raised in luxury, was oblivious to the blood tie that bound him to her. The thought twisted like a knife, but Elena shoved it down, focusing on survival. She boarded the train, the doors hissing shut behind her, and claimed a seat amid the weary commuters. Her reflection in the window stared back, the red welt fading, but the fire in her eyes burning brighter. In the quiet sway of the car, Elena unpacked the evening mentally, piece by jagged piece. Victoria's slap wasn't just physical, it was a declaration of war on her very existence. Yet Elena refused to retaliate with fury. She'd learned that lesson young in the South's unforgiving streets. Strength came from endurance, from rising each time they knocked you down. She touched the old scar on her wrist, a remnant from a childhood fight, and smiled faintly. "They don't know who they're dealing with," she said aloud, drawing a curious glance from a nearby passenger. But she ignored it, her mind already plotting quiet steps forward. Finding new work, protecting her secrets, waiting for the moment truth would strike back. By the time she unlocked her apartment door, the adrenaline ebbed, leaving bone-deep fatigue. The room smelled of stale coffee and determination, photos of her family pinned to the wall, a reminder of why she pressed on. Elena sank onto the bed, but sleep didn't come easily. She replayed Victoria's face, the shock in Richard's eyes, and whispered her prophecy again, letting it echo in the dim light. The city outside hummed on, indifferent, but Elena felt a shift, a crack in the facade of power. She closed her eyes not in defeat, but in anticipation, her silence a weapon sharper than any shout. "Damn her words," Victoria hissed, slamming her fist on the vanity table, the echo ricocheting through the master suite. The galla's remnants clung to her, smeared lipstick, a crumpled gown tossed aside. But Elena's parting shot burrowed deeper, twisting like a thorn. She paced the room, heels digging into the plush carpet, her reflection in the mirror cracking with each step. Richard lingered in the doorway, his tie loosened, face etched with shadows from the dim lamp. "Victoria, enough." You went too far. Too far? She whirled on him, eyes flashing daggers. That woman invaded our privacy, Richard. Eavesdropping like some street rat. I protected us. Her voice cracked, but she swallowed it down, refusing to admit the unease gnawing at her core. The slap replayed in her mind. Elena's unyielding stare. That cryptic warning about blood and wombs. Victoria's hand stung anew, phantom pain mirroring the doubt creeping in. She stormed to the closet, yanking open drawers, searching for a distraction in jewels and silks. Something clinked under her fingers. A small, tarnished locket, fallen from Elena's pocket during the scuffle. Victoria snatched it up, the chain cold against her palm. She flipped it open. Inside, a faded engraving read, Alex, their adopted son's name etched in looping script. Her breath hitched, fingers tightening around the metal. What the hell is this? Richard crossed the room in 3 strides, his hand shooting out to grab the locket. Give me that. His voice dropped low, urgent, eyes widening as recognition hit. Victoria yanked it back, holding it aloft like evidence in a trial. She dropped it. That Maid? Carrying something with our boy's name? Coincidence? Or was she plotting something all along? But her accusation faltered, the weight of the object pulling at her certainty. Richard's face drained of color, his jaw locking as memories surged. The deal that crushed Marcus Reed, the baby they saved from that wreckage. He turned away, fist balled, the room's air thickening with unspoken guilt. Victoria pressed on, her voice sharpening. Answer me, Richard. You know her better than I do. Hiring her years ago, always defending her quiet ways. She thrust the locket at him, forcing him to look. Richard's fingers trembled as he took it, the engraving staring back like an accusation. He remembered Elena's arrival at their door, broken but determined, the hidden pain in her eyes that mirrored his secrets. It's nothing, he lied, voice rough, but his pulse hammered betrayal. Victoria sank onto the bed, the locket now in her lap, her earlier rage fracturing into confusion. Why, Alex? Why our son? She traced the letters, the metal warming under her touch, a seed of regret sprouting. The gala guests had whispered as they left, pitying glances, judgmental murmurs about her outburst. Her chest tightened, breath shallow. Richard paced to the window, staring at the city skyline, lights blurring into accusations. He slipped into his study, the door clicking shut behind him, and pulled a hidden drawer from the desk. Inside, an old photograph. Marcus Reed, arm around a younger Elena, both smiling in a world before the Harringtons' empire swallowed them whole. The image burned his eyes. Marcus's trust, Elena's glow, the child they lost in the fallout. Richard crushed the photo in his hand, paper crinkling like breaking bones, but he couldn't destroy the truth. What have we done? He whispered, the words slicing through the silence. Back in the bedroom, Victoria clutched the locket tighter, her mind racing, Elena's prophecy echoing, the slap now feeling like a misfire in a larger war. She rose, determination hardening her features, but doubt lingered, a crack in her armor. Richard returned, photo concealed in his pocket, his face a mask of control. We'll handle this tomorrow, he said flatly, but his eyes betrayed the storm. Victoria nodded, slipping the locket into her drawer, but sleep evaded her that night, Elena's words replaying on loop. The mansion settled into uneasy quiet, secrets stirring like ghosts in the halls. Richard lay awake beside her, the photograph's weight pressing on his chest, knowing the unraveling had begun. Morning light would demand action, pulling them toward Elena's world, where truths waited to explode. As dawn crept through the curtains, Victoria stirred first, the locket's pull undeniable. She dressed quickly, resolve igniting. She'd track Elena down, demand answers, unaware the chase would unearth bones long buried. Richard watched her go, his silence heavy, the hook of regret sinking deeper, setting the stage for atonement's brutal path. Find her now, Victoria barked into her phone, her voice a whip crack, slicing through the morning haze in her sleek Mercedes, tires screeching as she peeled out of the driveway. The locket burned in her pocket like a live coal. Elena's engraved name, Alex, fueling the firestorm in her chest. She slammed the dashboard, knuckles whitening on the wheel. I don't care about excuses. Track that woman's address. She's not vanishing on me. The private investigator on the line stammered, but Victoria cut him off sharply. Results in an hour, or you're fired. She accelerated through Manhattan's gridlock, horns blaring around her, but she ignored them, her mind locked on Elena's defiant eyes from last night. Doubt clawed at her. Why the locket? Why her son's name? Richard's silence that morning only amplified the roar in her ears. He'd avoided her gaze over coffee, muttering about meetings before slipping away. Victoria's nails dug into the leather steering wheel, drawing thin lines of pain to match the regret gnawing inside. She couldn't shake the slap's echo, the way Elena hadn't flinched, hadn't begged. It unnerved her, this quiet strength from someone she'd dismissed as beneath her. The investigator called back, voice clipped. Brooklyn address, rough neighborhood. You sure about this? Victoria hung up without a word, veering toward the bridge, the city skyline shrinking in her rear view. Her pulse hammered as she entered unfamiliar streets, cracked sidewalks, graffiti-scarred walls closing in. She parked outside a dilapidated brownstone, engine idling, scanning the faces passing by. Mostly black and brown folks hustling to work, their stares hard on her luxury car. Unease twisted her gut. She'd never ventured here, always buffered by wealth's invisible shield. She stepped out, heels unsteady on uneven pavement, clutching her purse like a weapon. A group of kids eyed her from the stoop, whispers cutting the air. Lost, lady? One sneered. Victoria straightened, chin lifting in defiance. I'm looking for Elena Thompson. Now! The kid laughed but pointed upstairs. Top floor. Good luck. She climbed the stairs, each creak amplifying her isolation, sweat beading on her forehead despite the chill. Knocking on the door, she braced herself, but no answer came. Elena! Open up! Her fist pounded harder, frustration boiling over. A neighbor cracked her door, eyes narrowing. She ain't home, left for the clinic hours ago. Victoria whirled, voice slicing. Clinic? Where? The woman hesitated, then spat the address, slamming her door shut. Victoria descended, fury mixing with a strange pull. Why chase this? But the locket demanded answers, Elena's prophecy echoing like a curse. Back in the car, she sped toward the community clinic in Harlem, traffic parting reluctantly before her aggressive swerves. Arriving, she shoved through the crowded waiting room, coughs echoing, mothers cradling sick kids, the air thick with desperation. Heads turned, murmurs rising at her designer coat amid worn jackets. I'm here for Elena, she demanded at the desk, voice cutting through the noise. The receptionist glared. She's busy. Take a number. Victoria's temper flared. She leaned in, eyes blazing. Tell her Victoria Harrington is waiting. Now. The woman relented, disappearing back, and moments later Elena emerged, uniform crisp, face set in stone. You, Elena said, arms crossing, blocking the hall. Victoria stepped forward, locket thrust out like a blade. Explain this. Why my son's name? Elena's eyes flickered, jaw tightening, but she held firm. Not here, outside. They exited to the alley, tension crackling. Victoria pressed. You dropped it. It's got Alex engraved. What game are you playing? Elena snatched the locket, fingers closing tight, pain flashing across her features. It's mine. Old keepsake. But Victoria grabbed her wrist. Liar! You know something about my family. Elena yanked free, eyes hardening. Your family? You slap me, humiliate me, and now you hunt me down? Leave. Victoria's voice dropped low, venomous. Not until you spill. The standoff stretched, Elena's breath quickening, memories of Marcus surging, his fall, the child stolen in the aftermath. She turned away, but Victoria followed, relentless. I'll make your life hell if you don't talk. Elena halted, whirling back. You've already done that. Victoria's pursuit didn't stop. She tailed Elena through the day, from clinic to subway, shadows lengthening. In a dingy diner where Elena grabbed lunch, Victoria cornered her at a booth. Sit. Talk. Elena slid in reluctantly, fork stabbing at her food. Why care now? After last night? Victoria's facade cracked slightly, voice rough. Your words haunt me. Blood not from my womb. What does it mean? Elena's grip tightened on her cup, steam rising like unspoken truce. Richard called then, his voice urgent on Victoria's phone. Where are you? We need to discuss this. She hung up, focus sharpening on Elena. As evening fell, Victoria's chase led to a park bench where Elena finally sat, exhausted. You want truth? It starts with Marcus Reed. Victoria's blood chilled. The name from their past. The rival they'd ruined. She leaned in, breath shallow. What about him? Elena's eyes met hers, steel in her gaze. He was more than your husband's enemy. The revelation hung, pulling Victoria deeper into the web. But Elena rose. Not all at once. You earn it. Victoria watched her walk away. The locket returned, but questions were multiplying, her world tilting toward unknown depths. Richard waited at home, photo in hand, but Victoria arrived alone, determination etched on her face. She wouldn't stop now. The hunt had awakened something raw, a need to confront the ghost she'd helped bury. Tomorrow she'd push harder, unaware Elena's strength would mirror her fractures. Back off or I'll call security myself. Elena snapped at the persistent volunteer hovering too close in the clinic's bustling hallway, her voice a sharp blade cutting through the chaos of crying infants and hurried footsteps. She shoved a stack of medical charts into his arms, eyes flashing with authority honed from years of holding the line against despair. These go to room 3, now. The young man scurried away, leaving Elena to exhale sharply, her shoulders rolling back as she dove back into the fray. No time for Victoria's shadows today. Lives depended on her here, in this underfunded Harlem outpost where hope fought tooth and nail against neglect. She moved like a force, gloved hands snapping open a drawer for bandages, wrapping a young boy's scraped knee with efficient twists. Hold still, Jamal. This'll sting, but you're tougher than that. The kid winced, teeth gritted, but Elena's steady gaze locked on his, pulling him through the pain. See? Done. Now go show your mama how brave you are. He nodded, scampering off, and Elena's chest tightened, not just from the boy's grit, but from the echo of her lost child, Alex, whose face she imagined in every kid she patched up. She wouldn't break now. Breaking meant failing them all. Wiping sweat from her brow with her sleeve, Elena turned to the next patient, an elderly woman clutching her side, breath ragged. Mrs. Jenkins, let's get you settled. Elena guided her to a chair, fingers pressing gently but firmly on her abdomen, assessing the flare-up. Breathe deep. That's it. The woman's eyes met hers, gratitude shining through the discomfort. You always know, Elena. Like an angel in scrubs. Elena's lips quirked, a rare smile cracking her facade. No angels here, just folks who care. But inside, the weight pressed. Victoria's chase yesterday, the locket's return stirring ghosts of Marcus, the man whose downfall stole her son. She shoved it down, focusing on the pulse under her fingertips. The clinic thrummed with urgency, phones ringing off the hook, nurses barking orders, patients spilling into the waiting area. Elena orchestrated it all, her voice rising above the din. Prioritize the fever cases and get that IV started on bed 2. Colleagues nodded, drawn to her unyielding calm, the way she lifted them without fanfare. During a brief lull, she slipped into the break room, pouring black coffee that burned her going down, mirroring the fire in her veins. A co-worker, Lisa, leaned against the counter. Rough one last night. You look like hell. Elena's jaw clenched. Just the usual. Rich folks thinking they own you. Lisa pressed. That Harrington woman? Saw her lurking outside. Elena slammed her cup down. She wants answers she ain't ready for. Pushing back out, Elena knelt by a teenage girl huddled in the corner, tears streaking her face. Talk to me, honey. What's hurting? The girl whispered about family pressures, dreams crushed under poverty's boot. Elena's hand squeezed hers, firm and warm. I've been there. Lost everything once. Job, love, even my boy. But you fight back, one step at a time. The words spilled raw, Elena's voice cracking just once. Visions of Alex flashing, The baby she'd handed over to shield him from the wreckage of Marcus's suicide, the Harringtons' generous adoption masking their guilt. She straightened, pulling the girl up. "Come on, we'll get you help. Real help." As shifts blurred, Elena's strength shone in small acts. Negotiating free meds from suppliers over the phone, her tone unyielding. "These people need it, not your profits." Or comforting a mother whose child faced eviction alongside illness. "We'll find resources. You're not alone." Her isolation gnawed, though. Nights alone in that Brooklyn hole, staring at faded photos of Marcus, wondering if Alex ever sensed the void. But here she built something unbreakable, a network of trust, lives mended by her hands. Late afternoon, a crisis hit. A man burst in, clutching his chest, collapsing mid-stride. Elena surged forward. "Clear space! Get the defibrillator!" She dropped to her knees, hands pumping compressions, rhythm fierce and unrelenting. "Stay with me!" Sweat poured down her face, muscles screaming, but she didn't falter, barking orders that mobilized the team. Paramedics arrived, taking over, and as they wheeled him out, stable, the room exhaled. Lisa clapped her shoulder. "You saved him, Elena." She shrugged it off, breath heaving. "We all did." But the adrenaline crash brought Victoria's face rushing back, the woman's entitlement clashing with this world's raw need. Elena ended her shift outside, leaning against the clinic wall, phone buzzing. Another text from an unknown number, likely Victoria. She deleted it, eyes hardening. Helping others kept her standing, a shield against the past pull. Marcus's memory fueled her, his passion for justice, cut short by the Harrington schemes. She wouldn't gloat in their downfall. She'd rise above it, for Alex, for herself. As she headed home, a child's wave from the window caught her eye, and Elena waved back, resolve stealing. Tomorrow brought more battles, but she was ready, unbreakable, a hero in the trenches where real change happened. The buzz of her phone persisted, Victoria's persistence mirroring Elena's tenacity, drawing the worlds closer to collision. "Stop following me, or I'll make you regret it," Elena snarled over her shoulder, her stride unbroken as she pushed through the clinic's back door into the alley, Victoria's heels clicking relentlessly behind her. The phone buzz stopped mid-vibration in Elena's pocket. She'd silenced it hours ago, but Victoria's physical pursuit hit harder, a shadow refusing to fade. Elena whirled, fists clenched at her sides, eyes locking onto Victoria's with unfiltered fury. "You think showing up here erases that slap? Erases years of your kind looking down on mine?" Victoria halted inches away, breath heaving, her coat flapping in the wind like a flag of surrender she hadn't yet raised. "I didn't come to fight. I came to apologize." The words sliced out sharply, but Elena cut her off with a harsh laugh, stepping forward to crowd Victoria against the brick wall. "Apologize? After hunting me like prey? You barge into my world, demand answers about that locket, and now play remorseful." Elena's finger jabbed the air between them, close enough to feel the heat of Victoria's flinch. Victoria's jaw tightened, hands rising in defense. "Listen." "No, you listen," Elena barked, voice rising like a storm. "You humiliated me in front of your fancy crowd, called me a thief, invader. Based on what? My skin? My job?" She leaned in, breath hot, forcing Victoria to meet her gaze. The alley's dim light cast harsh shadows on their faces, amplifying the raw edge of Elena's pain. Victoria's eyes darted, the locket's weight in her purse a constant pull, but she pressed on. "I was wrong. Blind. That prophecy you spat about blood and wombs, it haunts me. And the locket? Alex's name. Tell me it's nothing." Elena's breath caught, Marcus's face flashing in her mind. The man destroyed by this woman's husband, their child stolen in the ruins. She shoved the memory down, crossing her arms like armor. "Wrong? That's all? You think words fix the bruise on my face? The jobs I've lost to people like you?" Victoria reached out, hand hovering, but Elena slapped it away. "Don't touch me." The contact sparked, Victoria's palm stinging anew, mirroring last night's slap in reverse. Victoria recoiled, but her voice hardened. "I admit it. I let prejudice rule. Saw you as a threat, not a person. But I'm here now, facing it. Forgive me. Elena's eyes narrowed, assessing the clinic's distant hum, reminding her of the lives she mended daily. Forgiveness? Not free. Fine. Apology noted, but conditions apply. Victoria nodded quickly, eager. Anything. Elena stepped back, voice dropping to steel. First, back off my life. No more stalking. Second, use your power for good. Fund this clinic, help the folks you ignore. Victoria's brows furrowed. Done. What else? Elena's lips twisted. Let me see Alex. Up close. No games. Victoria froze, pulse thundering. Her adopted son, the boy she'd raised as her own. Why him? Elena's gaze pierced. Because some ties run deeper than you know. They stood in charged silence, Victoria's mind racing. Richard's evasions, the old photo he'd hidden. She extended her hand. Deal, but explain the locket. Elena ignored the hand, pulling a crumpled envelope from her bag instead. A faded letter, edges worn from years of handling. Not yet, but this starts it. She thrust the letter forward, Victoria snatching it, fingers trembling as she unfolded the paper. Marcus Reed's handwriting stared back. Elena, our boy is safe, but the Harringtons, they took everything. Promise me you'll fight when the time comes. Victoria's blood ran cold, the name Reed exploding in her chest like shrapnel from a buried bomb. Marcus, you're... Elena nodded once, sharp. Lover. Father of the child you claim as yours. Victoria's knees buckled slightly, gripping the wall for support, the letter crumpling in her fist. Impossible. We adopted him legally after his suicide. Elena's laugh barked out bitterly. Suicide? Or pushed? Your husband framed him, stole his company, left us shattered. Victoria's face paled, denials rising, but Elena cut through. Save it. Peace comes with truth. Meet my terms or this letter goes public. Victoria shoved the letter back, breath ragged. I didn't know. Richard, he handled the business. But doubt cracked her voice, memories of hushed arguments surfacing. Elena pocketed the letter, eyes unyielding. Now you do. Fix it or lose more than face. The standoff broke as Elena turned, striding away, but Victoria called out. Wait, we talk more. Tomorrow. Elena paused, glancing back. Only if you bring proof. Your family's skeletons. Victoria watched her vanish into the street, the letter's words searing her mind, pulling her toward Richard with fresh accusations. Home awaited like a battlefield, the apology forging a fragile bridge, but the hook of Marcus's secret yanked them into deeper waters. Richard's study light burned late that night, the photo in his drawer calling for confession, as Victoria plotted her next move, the reconciliation a spark igniting the larger blaze. Stay away from them, or you'll wish you'd never set foot in that house. Edward Langley's voice hissed through the phone, his words dripping venom as Elena gripped the receiver at the clinic's front desk, her knuckles whitening. The call came minutes after Victoria's tense alley confrontation, and Elena's pulse spiked, recognizing the gravelly tone of the Harringtons' loyal butler. Richard's distant cousin, a man whose cold eyes had always tracked her like prey. She slammed the phone down, breath sharp, her jaw clenching so tight her teeth ached. Edward's threat wasn't idle. It carried the weight of a man who'd buried secrets for decades and would kill to keep them hidden. She leaned against the counter, the clinic's chaos fading to a dull roar as her mind raced back to the letter from Marcus, now tucked in her bag, its words searing. The Harringtons took everything. Edward's name hadn't been in it, but his call confirmed his role in the shadows of that betrayal. Elena's fingers twitched, itching to confront him, but she forced herself to focus, grabbing a chart to steady her shaking hands. The memory of Victoria's apology, fragile as it was, clashed with this new hostility, tightening the knot in her chest. She wouldn't cower. Not now. Not after surviving their world's blows. Elena slipped into the break room, splashing water on her face, the cold shock grounding her. Edward's face flashed in her mind, his slick-back gray hair, the sneer he wore when ordering her to scrub floors, his whispered slurs when no one else heard. He wasn't just a butler, he was the gatekeeper of the Harringtons' empire, the one who'd smirked when she was hired, muttering, Know your place. Now his threat screamed of fear, fear of the letter, of what Elena might know about Marcus and Alex. She returned to work, but Edward's shadow loomed. A co-worker noticed her tension. You good, Elena? She nodded sharply. Just a bad call. But her eyes darted to the clinic's entrance, half expecting Edward to storm in. Instead, a text buzzed from Victoria. Meet tonight, my house. Bring the letter. Elena's lips pressed thin. Victoria's newfound alliance felt like a trap, but the chance to see Alex drove her forward. She replied, only if you keep your dogs on a leash. Edward's call had lit a fuse, and Elena wouldn't let it burn out. That evening, she arrived at the Harrington mansion, the iron gates creaking open like a warning. Edward stood at the entrance, arms crossed, his gaunt frame blocking her path. You don't belong here, he spat, stepping close, his breath sour with whiskey. Elena held her ground, chin up. Victoria invited me. Move. He grabbed her arm, fingers digging in. I know about the letter. Hand it over, or I'll make sure you disappear like Marcus did. Elena wrenched free, heart pounding, her voice ablade. Touch me again, and you'll regret it. Edward's eyes narrowed, but he stepped aside, muttering, You're digging your own grave. Elena pushed past, the letter's weight in her bag, a silent weapon. Inside, Victoria waited in the study, face pale but resolute. Richard stood nearby, his silence heavy, eyes avoiding Elena's. What's this about Marcus? Victoria demanded, voice tight. Elena pulled the letter out, but before she could speak, Edward burst in, cutting her off. She's lying, trying to blackmail us. His finger jabbed at Elena, his face red with rage. You think you can waltz in here, stirring up old dirt? Elena's fist clenched around the letter, her voice steady despite the storm. Dirt? Like framing a man for theft? Driving him to suicide? Like stealing his child? Edward lunged forward, but Victoria stepped between them, eyes blazing. Enough! Edward, back off! He froze, shock flickering, but his glare stayed locked on Elena. You'll pay for this, he hissed, storming out, his footsteps echoing like a countdown. Victoria turned to Elena, voice low. Is it true? About Alex? Elena nodded, sliding the letter across the desk. Read it. Marcus wrote it before he died. Victoria's hands trembled as she unfolded it, her breath catching at the words. Richard's face crumpled, guilt breaking through his mask. Edward's outburst had cracked the facade, exposing his role in the past. But Elena knew he wouldn't stop. His threat lingered like smoke, promising a bigger fight. She met Victoria's eyes. We're not done. He's hiding more. As Elena left, Edward watched from the shadows, his phone already dialing an unknown number. She's got the letter. We move now. The mansion's walls seemed to close in, secrets whispering louder, pulling Elena and Victoria toward a truth neither could escape. You think you can dig up the past and walk away clean? Edward's voice echoed in Elena's mind, his threat from the mansion's study, a blade held to her throat as she hunched over a battered laptop in her Brooklyn apartment, the screen's glow casting sharp shadows across her face. Her fingers flew across the keys, searching archived articles on Marcus Reed's downfall, the letter from him burning a hole in her bag nearby. She wouldn't let Edward's menace stop her. The truth about her son, Alex, and the Harringtons' betrayal drove her forward, each click a step deeper into their buried sins. Elena's eyes burned from hours of scanning. News clippings from 16 years ago screamed of Marcus's ruin. Tech mogul indicted for fraud. Reed Enterprises collapses. Her jaw tightened, teeth grinding as she read the lies spun by Richard Harrington's company, painting Marcus as a thief to steal his empire. The letter's words replayed, "They took everything." She slammed a fist on the table, coffee mug rattling, the pain in her knuckles grounding her rage. Marcus had trusted her to fight, and now, with Victoria as an uneasy ally, she'd unearthed the proof to expose Edward and the Harringtons. She texted Victoria short and sharp, "Meet me, midnight, Old Reed Enterprises office." Victoria's reply came fast, "I'm in. Bring everything." Elena grabbed the letter, tucking it into her coat, and slipped out into the night, the city's pulse matching her own, relentless, electric. The abandoned office building in Queens loomed dark, windows boarded. But Elena knew its secrets. Marcus had shown her the hidden safe once, a fail-safe against betrayal. She waited in the shadows, breath steaming in the cold, until Victoria's car pulled up, headlights cutting through the gloom. "Show me," Victoria demanded, stepping out, her face taut with urgency. Elena led her inside, flashlight beam slicing through dust and decay. Marcus kept records here, proof they framed him. Victoria's heels clicked unevenly on broken tiles, her voice sharp. "If this is a game, Elena." "Game!" Elena spun, eyes blazing, shoving the letter into Victoria's hands. "Read it again. Your husband ruined my life, stole my child. You think I'm playing?" Victoria flinched but unfolded the paper, her fingers trembling as Marcus's words hit anew. The setup, the theft, the child taken. She shoved it back, voice cracking. "I didn't know. Let's find it. Whatever's left." Elena nodded, leading her to a rusted filing cabinet in the back office, her hands prying it open with a crowbar from her bag, muscles straining. Inside, folders spilled out, financial records, emails, a ledger marked Harrington deal. Elena's pulse surged. This was it. She handed half to Victoria, who scanned them under the flashlight's beam, her breath hitching. These show payments to a shell company. Richard's signature. Elena's eyes narrowed. And Edward's. He orchestrated it. They worked fast, sorting through pages, finding forged contracts that pinned fraud on Marcus. Each document tightened the noose around Edward, but Elena's gut churned. Something bigger lurked. They moved to the safe, hidden behind a loose wall panel. Elena knelt, fingers working the combination Marcus had whispered years ago. The lock clicked, revealing a USB drive and a single photo. Marcus holding baby Alex, Elena smiling beside them, before the world shattered. Victoria gasped, grabbing the photo. "This is you! With him?" Elena's throat tightened, fingers brushing the image. "My family, before you took it." Victoria's face crumpled, but she gripped the USB. "What's on this?" Elena plugged it into her laptop, pulled it from her bag. The drive loaded emails, Edward to Richard, planning Marcus's frame-up, mentioning a child to secure. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. "They plan to take Alex? Why?" Elena's voice was steel. "Leverage. To silence Marcus. Then me." The screen flickered, revealing a final file. A video of Edward bribing a lawyer to falsify evidence. His voice crackled through the speakers. "Read's done. The kid's ours now." Victoria staggered back. The truth, a gut punch. "I raised him, loved him. On lies?" Elena's eyes softened, just for a moment. "You didn't know, but Edward did." Victoria's fists balled, rage overtaking guilt. "He's family, Richard's cousin. How could he?" Elena shut the laptop, voice low. "Power, greed, same old story for folks like us." She pocketed the USB, the photo, the ledger, proof to bury Edward, maybe Richard too. But footsteps echoed outside, heavy and deliberate. Elena yanked Victoria behind a desk, heart pounding. A flashlight beam cut through the dark. Edward, his silhouette unmistakable, a gun glinting in his hand. "I warned you," he growled, kicking a chair aside. "You think you can expose me?" Elena's breath hitched, gripping Victoria's arm to keep her still. They'd been followed, Edward's network deeper than she'd feared. He smashed a window, glass shattering, his voice rising. "Hand over the letter, the drive, everything, or you're both dead." Elena whispered, "Stay low. We move fast." She shoved the USB into her pocket, eyes scanning for an exit. Victoria's breath was ragged, but she nodded, clutching the ledger tight. Elena grabbed a loose pipe from the floor, her grip steady despite the fear clawing her chest. They darted for the back door, Edward's shouts chasing them, bullets grazing the wall as they dove into the alley. Gasping, Elena pulled Victoria behind a dumpster, the evidence safe but their lives on the line. They sprinted through Queens back streets, Edward's pursuit fading, but his threat roaring in Elena's ears. She glanced at Victoria, panting beside her, now bound by the truth they'd unearthed. "We've got him," Elena said, voice hard. "But he won't stop." Victoria's eyes burned with new fire. "Then we don't either." The USB felt like a bomb in Elena's pocket. its secrets ready to detonate. But Edward's shadow loomed larger, promising a fight that would test them all. "You knew, didn't you? You stole my son!" Elena's voice cut through the dim light of the Harrington study like a blade, her finger jabbing at Richard as she slammed the USB drive onto his desk. The video file paused on Edward's sneering face mid-bribe. Her chest heaved, fury and grief colliding as she faced the man who'd orchestrated Marcus's destruction. Victoria stood frozen beside her, the ledger from Reed Enterprises clutched to her chest, her eyes wide with shock as the truth unraveled. Richard's hands gripped the desk's edge, knuckles white, his face collapsing into a mask of guilt. "Speak," Elena snapped, stepping closer, her breath hot with 16 years of buried pain. Richard's mouth opened, but no words came, his eyes darting to the photo on the desk. Marcus, Elena, and baby Alex, a family torn apart by his ambition. "You framed Marcus, took his company, his life, then my boy to cover it up." Elena's fist pounded the desk, the USB skidding closer to Richard, its evidence a ticking bomb. Victoria's voice broke the silence, low and trembling. "Richard, tell me she's wrong. Tell me we didn't build our life on this." Richard sank into his chair, head in hands, his voice a hoarse whisper. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Elena lunged, grabbing his collar, yanking him up. "Didn't mean? You let Marcus die. You let Edward bribe and lie, then took Alex like a trophy." Her hands shook, but she held firm, the photo burning in her peripheral vision. Her son's tiny face, now the teenager sleeping upstairs, oblivious to his true roots. Victoria dropped the ledger, pages fluttering open, revealing Richard's signatures on forged contracts. "You signed these," she hissed, stepping beside Elena, her betrayal igniting. "You and Edward planned this? To ruin a man? Steal his child?" Richard's eyes flicked between them, trapped. "Edward pushed it, said we needed leverage. Marcus was a threat. His tech would have crushed us." He swallowed hard, voice cracking. "After his death, we took Alex. To protect him," I told myself. "Protect?" Elena's laugh was bitter, sharp as broken glass. She shoved the photo at him, forcing him to look. "This was my family. You didn't protect. You erased us." Her voice trembled, not with tears, but with the weight of a mother's loss, her fingers digging into the desk to keep from striking him. Victoria grabbed the USB, plugging it into the laptop, the video restarting. Edward's voice, cold and calculated, detailing the frame-up, the lawyer's payoff, the adoption to silence Marcus's legacy. Each word landed like a bullet, shredding Richard's defenses. Victoria's face paled, her hand covering her mouth as she watched Edward's betrayal unfold. "Our son, Alex is theirs?" Her voice broke, eyes meeting Elena's, a mix of horror and shame. Elena nodded, her gaze unyielding. "Mine and Marcus's. Your empire's built on our blood." Richard slumped further, the fight draining from him. "I kept quiet to save us all. Edward said it was clean. No one would know." Elena's hand shot out, slapping the desk. "I knew. Every day I felt it." The room pulsed with tension, the video looping Edward's damning words. Victoria turned on Richard, her voice a whip. "You let me raise him, love him, on a lie? You let Edward pull the strings?" Richard's head shook, desperate. "I thought it was over. Buried." Elena stepped back, breath ragged, her eyes flicking to the stairs where Alex slept. "It's not over. Edward's still out there, hunting us for this." She tapped the USB, her voice steel. "He'll kill to keep it quiet." Victoria's fist clenched, her nails biting into her palms. "He's my cousin, but he's done." She grabbed the ledger, flipping to a page marked with Edward's initials. "He profited from this. Millions funneled through his accounts." Elena's eyes narrowed, connecting dots. "He didn't just help, he ran it. Your family's dirty laundry, Richard, and he's the one washing it." Richard's face crumpled, realization hitting. He'd been a pawn in Edward's game as much as Marcus had. Elena snatched the photo, holding it close, her resolve hardening. "Alex deserves the truth. I'm his mother." Victoria's breath hitched, but she nodded, a fragile alliance solidifying. "We'll tell him. Together." Richard stood, voice shaking. I'll help. I owe you that. But Elena's glare cut through. You owe me a lifetime. The USB's weight in her hand felt like justice, but Edward's shadow loomed. His footsteps from the warehouse chase still echoed in her ears, his gun a promise of more blood. As they stood, united by the wreckage, a creak came from the hallway. Elena spun, heart racing, but it was only a maid, startled by the raised voices. The tension didn't break. It coiled tighter. The truth about Alex and Marcus, now a weapon they all wielded, aimed at Edward. Elena pocketed the USB, her eyes burning with purpose. We end this. For my son. Victoria nodded, clutching the ledger, while Richard stared at the photo, haunted by the family he'd destroyed. The study's walls seemed to close in, the next move belonging to a man who'd kill to stay hidden. You think you can expose me and live? Edward snarled, his gun barrel pressing cold against Elena's temple as he burst into the Harrington study, his eyes wild with cornered rage, the door splintering behind him. Elena's breath caught, her body rigid, but she didn't flinch, her gaze locked on his trigger finger, the USB drive clutched in her fist like a lifeline. Victoria gasped, lunging forward, but Edward swung the gun toward her. Back off, cousin, or she dies first. Richard froze mid-step, his hands raised, face ashen with the weight of his confession still hanging in the air. Elena twisted slightly, her free hand inching toward her pocket, voice steady despite the metal's chill. It's over, Edward. We have the video, the ledger, your bribes, your setups. Edward's laugh barked out, harsh and unhinged, his grip tightening on her hair, yanking her head back. Over? I built this empire. Marcus was weak, a obstacle. You? Just a maid who got too nosy. He jammed the gun harder, bruising her skin, his breath hot on her neck. Hand it over, now. Victoria's voice sliced in, sharp and desperate. Edward, stop! Your family. Family? He cut her off, whirling Elena like a shield, the gun waving wildly. You idiots let her in, with her lies about that brat Alex. I made the calls, framed Reed, took the kid to shut him up. You just reaped the rewards. Richard stepped closer, voice low. We can talk this out. Edward fired a shot into the ceiling, plaster raining down, everyone ducking as the blast echoed. Talk? Like how I talked Marcus into that noose? Give me the drive, or I paint the walls with her blood. Elena's heart hammered, adrenaline surging, her fingers brushing the pipe she'd pocketed from the warehouse in her coat. She stomped on Edward's foot hard, bone crunching under her heel, and elbowed his gut, air whooshing from him. He staggered, gun arm flailing, but she spun, swinging the pipe like a bat, cracking against his wrist. The gun skidded across the floor, Edward howling, clutching his hand. You bitch! He charged, tackling her to the ground, fists flying, one connecting with her jaw, stars exploding in her vision. Victoria dove for the gun, fingers scraping wood, but Edward kicked it away, his boot grazing her side. Stay down! Richard grabbed Edward's collar, hauling him off Elena, the two men grappling, fists pounding flesh. Elena rolled, blood trickling from her lip, grabbing the USB tighter, her eyes darting to the photo on the desk, her son fueling her fight. She scrambled up, pipe in hand, swinging at Edward's back as he headbutted Richard, blood spraying from Richard's nose. The impact sent Edward sprawling, but he snatched a letter opener from the desk, slashing wildly. You ruined everything! Edward roared, lunging at Elena again, the blade nicking her arm, warm blood soaking her sleeve. She dodged, pain shooting through her, but countered with a knee to his groin, doubling him over. Victoria grabbed his arm from behind, twisting, the opener clattering free. Enough! Victoria yelled, her nails digging into his skin. Edward threw her off, slamming her against the wall, her head thudding hard, vision blurring. Richard tackled him anew, pinning him to the floor, knees on his chest. It's done, Edward. Police are coming. Elena panted, arm throbbing, but she snatched the gun from under the desk, pointing it steady at Edward's head. Move, and I end it. Her voice was ice, the weight of years, lost son, dead lover, steadying her aim. Edward's eyes bulged, defiance cracking. You wouldn't. You're nothing. Elena's finger tensed on the trigger, but Victoria stirred, groaning. Don't. We need him alive, for trial. Richard nodded, holding Edward down, blood dripping from his face onto Edward's shirt. Edward spat, struggling. You'll all burn with me. I have backups. Witnesses paid off. Elena pressed the barrel to his forehead, her voice a whisper. Try it. I've got nothing left to lose. The standoff stretched, breaths ragged, the study reeking of sweat and blood. Sirens wailed distant, growing louder, Richard's earlier call summoning them. Edward's fight ebbed, his body slumping, but his eyes promised vengeance. Elena lowered the gun slightly, her arm aching, the USB safe in her pocket. But the danger pulsed. Edward's network, his secrets, still out there. Victoria pushed up, clutching her side, eyes meeting Elena's. We got him, but Alex... Elena nodded, the boy's name an anchor amid the chaos. Richard bound Edward's hands with his belt, the man cursing under his breath. The sirens closed in, lights flashing through windows, but Elena's grip on the gun stayed firm, knowing escape meant facing more shadows. Edward's glare bored into her, a silent vow of retribution, as the door burst open with police, the night far from over. Drop it now, the lead officer bellowed, bursting through the shattered study door with his team, weapons drawn, beams from flashlights slicing the chaos as Elena held the gun steady on Edward's forehead, her finger itching on the trigger. Police swarmed in, one yanking the weapon from her grip, another cuffing Edward's wrists behind his back, his curses muffled as they hauled him up. Elena stepped back, chest heaving, blood from her arm dripping onto the carpet, but her eyes stayed locked on Edward's snarling face, his threats still echoing, backups and witnesses he claimed would bury them all. Victoria clutched her bruised side, rising unsteadily, while Richard wiped blood from his nose, his voice hoarse. He's the one, gun, assault, the whole mess. Officers restrained Edward, slamming him against the wall, his struggles futile as metal clicked tight. You'll regret this, Edward spat at Elena, his eyes burning holes. I have tapes, records, enough to drag you all down. Elena's jaw clenched, pain shooting through her jaw from his earlier punch, but she shoved it aside, grabbing the USB from her pocket. Take him, but we're not done. The cops nodded, one reading Edward his rights, the room pulsing with shouts and radio static as they dragged him out, his boots scraping the floor. Elena sank against the desk, adrenaline crashing, her arm throbbing like fire. Victoria approached, hand on her shoulder. You okay? Elena nodded sharply, wiping blood from her lip. He mentioned backups. We need them, before his lawyers twist this. Richard straightened, guilt etching deeper lines on his face. His office, in the basement, he keeps a safe, old tapes, documents. I never touched it. Elena's eyes flashed. Lead us, now! They moved fast, leaving the study in ruins, police wrapping up statements outside as sirens faded. Down the stairs to the basement, Richard fumbled with keys, his hands shaking from the fight. He trusted no one, not even me. The door creaked open to a dimly lit room stacked with files, a massive safe bolted to the wall. Elena shoved past, her uninjured hand testing the dial. Combination. Richard hesitated, then rattled off numbers, birthdays, deals from their dark past. The lock clicked, tumblers falling into place, and Elena yanked the door open, heart pounding. Inside, stacks of cash, forged IDs, and a dusty recorder with tapes labeled by date. Victoria grabbed one, fingers trembling. This is it. 16 years ago. Elena snatched the recorder, hitting play, the tape hissing to life. Edward's voice, cold and commanding, dictating the frame-up. Reed's files altered. Bribe the DA. The kid goes to Richard. Silence the widow. Marcus's name dropped like a bomb, followed by laughter. Edwards and another's plotting the suicide cover. Elena's fists balled, nails digging into palms, the voice ripping open old wounds, her son's cries imagined amid the conspiracy. Victoria hit stop, face ashen. He recorded everything. Insurance. Richard grabbed another tape, popping it in. More confessions, Edward admitting to payoffs, even threatening Marcus directly. One word and you're gone. Elena's breath quickened, piecing it together. These weren't just backups. They were Edward's leverage over Richard, too. He owned you, she hissed at Richard, shoving the recorder into her bag. All this time. Richard's head bowed, voice breaking. I let him. For the company. They rifled deeper, finding a ledger matching the one from Reed's office. Entries detailing stolen funds funneled through Edward's accounts. Millions skimmed. Victoria flipped pages furiously, her voice rising. He profited off our family, off Alex. Elena pulled a final envelope. Photos of Marcus's suicide scene, staged with Edward's notes on cleanup. Her stomach twisted, grief surging like a wave. But she channeled it into action, stuffing everything into a duffel from the shelf. This nails him. Murder, theft, kidnapping. Footsteps thundered above. More police or worse. Elena slammed the safe shut, bag slung over her shoulder. Out, back exit. They bolted up a side stairwell, Richard leading, Victoria covering their rear. A door burst open upstairs, voices shouting. Edward's accomplices? Elena's mind raced. A lawyer, a fixer Edward mentioned in the tapes. They slipped into the garage, hearts slamming, ducking behind cars as flashlight beams swept. Quiet, Elena whispered, her arm wound screaming with each move. Richard hot-wired his own sedan, old habits from shady deals, engine roaring to life. They peeled out, gates crashing open, police lights flashing in the rear view but not pursuing yet. Elena clutched the bag, tapes rattling. Head to my clinic. Safe there. Copy everything. Victoria nodded, dialing a contact. My lawyer first. We go public. Richard gripped the wheel, sweat beading. He'll come for us. His network's deep. Elena's voice cut sharp. Let him. These tapes end him. They arrived at the clinic, barricading in the back room, Elena bandaging her arm quick and rough, pain fueling her focus. She plugged the recorder into a computer, dubbing tapes to digital, Victoria scanning documents on her phone. One tape revealed more. Edward's confession to poisoning Marcus's drink, staging the hanging. Elena paused it, eyes blazing. Murder, not suicide. Victoria's hands shook, but she pressed on, emailing copies to trusted allies. Richard paced, phone buzzing, Edward's lawyer demanding silence. He smashed it against the wall. No more. Hours blurred, evidence mounting, timelines, witnesses named, bank transfers traced. Elena found a hidden file on the USB, Edward's master plan, including threats to Elena if she ever resurfaced. Her resolve hardened, the bag now an arsenal of truth. Victoria stood, voice firm. We have it all. Irrefutable. Elena nodded, bag zipped. Time to vac him. But a crash outside, glass breaking, jerked them alert. Shadows moved, Edward's men circling. Elena grabbed a scalpel from a drawer, eyes narrowing. They found us. Fight through. Richard barred the door, the evidence their only weapon. The final confrontation brewing as fists pounded outside. Break it down, now! The lead thug barked outside the clinic door, his boots slamming into the wood, splintering cracks as Elena gripped the scalpel tighter, her bandaged arm throbbing, eyes locked on the barricade shaking under the assault. Victoria shoved a chair against it, breath ragged, while Richard fumbled with his phone, dialing the police again. They're here for the evidence, Elena hissed, the bag of tapes and ledgers slung over her shoulder like a bomb ready to explode. The door buckled inward, hinges groaning, and Elena lunged forward as the first intruder burst through, his crowbar swinging wild. She slashed the scalpel across his arm, blood spraying, the man howling as he dropped the tool. Back off, Elena roared, kicking him square in the chest, sending him stumbling into his partner. Victoria grabbed a metal tray from the counter, smashing it over the second thug's head, the clang echoing as he crumpled. Richard tackled the third, fists pounding, grunts filling the room amid crashing equipment. Get the bag, one shouted, but Elena dodged a grab, slicing another wrist, her movements fueled by years of suppressed rage, Marcus's death, Alex's theft, all boiling over. The fight spilled into the hallway, bodies slamming walls. Elena's scalpel a blur as she parried a knife thrust, twisting the attacker's arm until it snapped. You won't take it, she snarled, kneeing him in the gut, his breath exploding out. Victoria wrestled a gun from a fallen thug, pointing it shaky but firm. Stop, or I shoot. The intruders hesitated, but their leader charged, grabbing Richard by the throat, choking him against the wall. Elena hurled herself at him, scalpel embedding in his shoulder, the man releasing Richard with a scream, blood soaking his shirt. They subdued the last one, Richard binding hands with medical tape, Victoria holding the gun steady. Elena panted, wiping sweat and blood from her face, the bag intact. Call it in! Police! Sirens wailed closer, lights flashing through windows as cops stormed in, cuffing the intruders, questions firing rapid. Elena thrust the bag at the lead detective. Evidence? Edward Langley's crimes. Murder? Fraud? Kidnapping. The detective's eyes widened, opening the ledger, scanning tapes. This is big. We'll need statements. But Elena pushed past, voice cutting. Not here. Public. Now. Victoria nodded, grabbing her arm. The press. My contacts. Expose him live. They piled into Richard's car, police escort trailing, racing to a downtown news studio Victoria called in favors for. The bag bounced on Elena's lap, her mind racing. Alex's face in the photo, the truth finally breaking free. Richard drove silent, guilt his passenger, while Victoria barked into her phone. Emergency broadcast, Harrington scandal, full exposure. They burst into the studio, cameras rolling live, anchors scrambling as Victoria shoved onto set. Elena beside her, Richard trailing. We're going public, Victoria declared to the stunned host, slamming the ledger down. Edward Langley, my cousin, murdered Marcus Reed, framed him, stole his child, our adopted son Alex. Gas rippled through the crew, Elena stepping forward, voice steel. I'm Alex's real mother. Here's proof. She plugged the USB into the console, the video blasting on screens. Edward's taped confession, his voice damning. Reed's done. Poisoned. Staged suicide. Kids leverage. The host's eyes bulged. This is live. Millions watching. Elena hit play on another tape. Edward's bribes detailed. Ledgers flashing with signatures. He profited millions. Richard knew. She glared at him. Richard stepping up, face pale. I enabled it, but no more. The screen split to Edward in custody, his lawyer's denials crumbling as the broadcast aired the evidence unfiltered. Phones lit up, social media exploding, reporters flooding lines. Edward's face appeared via feed from jail, his glare piercing through the screen. Lies! Fabricated! But Elena cut in, holding the photo high. This is my family, destroyed by you. The locket dangled from her neck, Alex's name engraved, the prophecy fulfilled. Victoria thrust the forged contracts forward. Arrest him for murder. Full charges. The detective on air confirmed. Warrants issuing now. Backups match. Edward's composure shattered, his shouts muted as the feed cut, the world witnessing his fall. Elena stood tall, the weight lifting, but her eyes burned. Justice tasted bitter, laced with loss. Victoria gripped her hand, alliance forged in fire. Alex will know. Truth sets him free. Richard bowed his head, atonement beginning. The broadcast ended with Elena's voice echoing. No more secrets, no more power over the powerless. Cameras clicked, the exposure complete, but Elena's fight lingered. Alex's reunion, the final thread. As they left, crowds gathered outside, cheers and questions blending, the locket warm against her skin, promising closure amid the storm. You're finished. Life behind bars. The judge's gavel cracked down like thunder in the packed courtroom. Edward Langley's face twisting into a mask of fury as handcuffs snapped around his wrists, the jury's guilty verdict still ringing in the air. Elena stood rigid in the witness box, her eyes boring into Edward's, the scalpel scar on her arm itching under her sleeve, a reminder of the fight that led here. Victoria gripped the railing beside her, knuckles white, while Richard sat stone-faced in the back, his testimony against his cousin, the final nail in the coffin. Edward lunged against the bailiffs, spitting venom. You traitors! I made you! Elena stepped down, voice slicing back. You destroyed lives. Marcus's, mine, Alex's. The courtroom buzzed, reporters scribbling furiously, flashes popping as Edward was dragged away, his shouts echoing down the hall. I'll appeal. You'll pay. But the gavel's echo silenced him, justice's weight crushing his empire of lies. Elena's chest tightened, not with triumph, but with the hollow ache of delayed vengeance. 16 years of grief funneled into this moment, her son's face flashing in her mind, the boy now knowing her as mother. The judge continued, voice booming. Guilty on all counts: murder, fraud, kidnapping, life without parole. Gasps rippled through the crowd, Victoria's breath hitching as she met Elena's gaze. A nod passing between them, alliance forged in blood and betrayal. Richard rose, approaching slowly, his face etched with shame. I should have stopped him sooner. Elena's hand shot up, stopping him cold. You did nothing. Face it. He nodded, turning away, the weight of his complicity a chain he couldn't shake. Outside, media swarmed, microphones thrusting forward. Ms. Thompson, how does it feel? Elena pushed through, voice sharp. It's not about feeling. It's about ending the cycle. Victoria flanked her, adding, Our family pays the price too. They shoved past into a waiting car, Richard trailing like a shadow. Inside, silence hung heavy until Elena broke it. Alex, does he understand? Victoria's eyes softened. He's processing, but he wants to see you. Truly. The drive blurred, Elena's mind replaying the trial. Tapes played, ledgers dissected, Edward's denials crumbling under cross-examination. His lawyer had snarled objections, but Elena's testimony cut through, detailing the warehouse chase, the clinic assault, the gun to her head. Jurors' faces hardened, nods confirming the truth. Now with Edward locked away, loose ends tied, his accomplices flipped, bank accounts frozen, the Harrington Company under investigation. Richard's plea deal spared him prison, but stripped his power, community service, restitution to victims like Elena's family in Mississippi. They arrived at the courthouse steps again for statements, Elena stepping to the podium first, voice unwavering. Justice isn't just punishment, it's reclaiming what's stolen. Cameras clicked. The crowd hushed. Victoria joined. We'll rebuild, honestly. Richard hung back, his silence a confession. Elena touched the locket, Alex's name warm against her skin. The verdict a balm on old wounds, but scars remained. Edward's final glare from the dock lingered. A ghost of threats passed, but powerless now. As they dispersed, a detective approached, nodding. All knots untied. Reed's name cleared. Official exoneration. Elena's fists unclenched, a breath she didn't know she held escaping. Marcus's memory vindicated, Alex's heritage restored. Victoria squeezed her arm. It's done. Elena nodded, but her eyes burned. Justice served, yet the road to healing stretched ahead, Alex waiting at its end. Richard watched them go, alone with his regrets, the courtroom emptying like a battlefield after war, peace fragile but earned. We owe you more than words. Take the reins. Victoria thrust the contract across the table in the newly renovated community center, her voice cracking with urgency, eyes locking onto Elena's unyielding gaze amid the hum of volunteers unpacking boxes. Elena's fingers hovered over the paper, the title glaring. Director, Reed Harrington Foundation for Racial Justice. Her jaw tightened, the courtroom victory still fresh. Edward's life sentence a hollow echo against the scars he left. You think a title fixes it? My son's childhood gone. Marcus dead. Victoria leaned in, breath sharp. No, but action does. We're funding this. Millions from our assets, stripped from Edward's schemes. Clinics like yours, scholarships for kids like Alex was. Richard stood behind her, hands clasped tight, his face gaunt from weeks of asset liquidation. I signed over the company shares. Policies changed. No more blind hires. Mandatory equity training. It's real. Elena snatched the contract, scanning lines. Grants for Black-owned businesses, legal aid for framed victims, partnerships with Mississippi communities like her family's. Her pulse quickened, visions of her sister scraping by flashing. This could end that cycle. She slammed it down. Prove it. Walk the talk. Victoria nodded, rising fast, pulling Elena toward the center's bustling hall. Start now. Volunteers, former Harrington employees, now retrained, stack supplies, medical kits, laptops, food crates. One approached Elena, hesitant. Ma'am, we're setting up the first clinic branch. Your input? Elena's eyes narrowed, but she dove in, voice commanding. Prioritize trauma care. Add counseling. Folks like me carry invisible wounds. The volunteer nodded, scribbling notes, Elena's authority pulling the room into focus. Richard joined, sleeves rolled up, hauling boxes himself. I ignored the rot. Now I build. Elena shot him a glare. Don't pat yourself. This is penance. He winced but pressed on, unloading tech for online education programs. Bridging gaps, Edward's greed widened. Victoria barked orders nearby, phone glued to her ear. Double the donation, yes, to the Mississippi Fund. Elena's call. Elena overheard, her chest loosening slightly, the locket around her neck warming. Alex's name a reminder of what's at stake. Weeks blurred into action. Elena at the helm, directing foundation launches. She stormed into board meetings, fist pounding the table. No half measures, full scholarships, no strings. Victoria backed her, voice fierce. Agreed. And company overhaul. Diverse hires at every level. Richard executed, firing holdouts from Edward's era, his hands shaking as he signed terminations. This hurts, but it's right. Elena watched, her skepticism cracking. Real change, not facades. One evening, at a groundbreaking for a new clinic in Harlem, Elena addressed the crowd, microphone gripped tight. This isn't charity, it's restitution. For every life crushed by power, we lift 10. Cheers erupted, flashes popping, but her eyes found Alex in the front row, his teenage frame tall, eyes mirroring Marcus's. He stepped up post-speech, hugging her fierce. Mom, this helps. Really. Elena's throat tightened, arms wrapping him back, the boy she'd lost, now her anchor. Victoria watched, tears streaking. Richard beside her, silent support. The foundation expanded. Legal teams dismantling old cases like Marcus's, exonerating dozens. Elena led raids on corrupt files, her voice booming in offices. Dig deeper, no stone unturned. Victoria funded it all, selling personal assets, jewels, cars, her voice on calls unyielding. Wire it now. Lives depend. Richard reformed the company, board meetings tense as he enforced quotas. No excuses, equality or out. Employees grumbled, but Elena's audits kept them honest, her presence a force. In Mississippi, Elena flew down, foundation check in hand, surprising her family at their rundown home. This rebuilds everything, her sister gasped, hugging tight. You did this? Elena shook her head. We did. Harrington's paying dues. Back in New York, she confronted Richard in his stripped-down office. Why now? He met her eyes. Guilt eats you alive. This heals. Elena nodded once, a truce forming. Hygiene programs rolled out, inspired by Elena's clinic work. Free care for underserved, training for black nurses. Victoria championed it, voice raw at launches. I was blind. Now I see. Alex volunteered, handing out kits, his bond with Elena strengthening. Proud of you, Mom. Her heart swelled, the pain easing. The capstone. A gala, not lavish but purposeful, at the community center. Elena on stage, voice thundering. This foundation honors Marcus Reed, fights for justice. Donations poured in, millions matched by Harrington remnants. Victoria joined her, hand raised. Together we change. Richard applauded from the shadows, his redemption quiet. Elena stepped off, Alex at her side, the locket glinting. Hope sparked. Not perfect, but forward. The center buzzed with life, programs launching daily, Elena's leadership a beacon. Victoria whispered, Thank you. Elena gripped her hand. Keep fighting. Richard approached, offering a key to a new home for her family. Small start. She took it, nod firm. The night ended with plans for more, expansions, advocacy. Their actions a tidal wave against old injustices, hope rising like dawn after endless night. "You're my mom, always were." Alex's voice cracked as he hurled himself into Elena's arms at the community center's bustling family reunion event, his teenage grip fierce, tears soaking her shoulder amid cheers from gathered supporters and foundation volunteers. Elena's breath hitched, her hands clutching him back, the locket pressing between them like a bridge across lost years. The room pulsed with life, tables laden with food from Mississippi recipes, kids running under banners proclaiming justice heals, Victoria orchestrating photo ops with donors, Richard quietly directing setup crews. Elena pulled back, cupping Alex's face, her eyes searching his. Marcus's eyes alive and forgiving. "I never stopped fighting for you." Alex nodded, wiping his cheeks roughly. "I know now, the tapes, the trial, it's all out." His voice steadied, pride flashing. "And this place? You built it." Elena's chest swelled, the foundation's walls echoing with laughter, a far cry from the courtroom's cold verdict or Edward's snarling defeat. She glanced at Victoria approaching, smile tentative. "He's right, we all did." Victoria hugged Alex quick, her touch maternal but yielding. "Family's what we make." Richard hovered nearby, offering a nod, his presence a quiet amends. No grand gestures, just steady support in the background. The event kicked into gear, Elena at the center, microphone in hand. Today marks not just reunion, but renewal. Her voice boomed, drawing eyes. Donors, survivors, community leaders. "We've cleared names, funded dreams, changed laws. But the lesson? Power unchecked crushes. Truth sets free." Applause thundered, but Elena's words cut deeper, aimed at hearts scarred by injustice. She stepped down, Alex by her side, guiding him through crowds. "See that clinic wing? Named for Marcus, your dad." Alex's hand tightened in hers. "Tell me about him." Stories flowed as they walked. Marcus's laugh, his inventions, the love that birthed Alex amid rising threats. Elena's voice wavered once, grief surfacing, but Alex squeezed back. "He'd be proud." Volunteers interrupted, pulling Elena into hugs. Former patients, now staff, their lives mended by foundation programs. One woman gripped her arm. "You saved my son from the system, like you saved yours." Elena's throat tightened, nodding sharp. "We save each other." Victoria caught up, breath quick. "Board meeting later, expanding to 3 more states." Elena arched a brow. "Push for policy reform. No more blind eyes in corporations." Victoria grinned fierce. "Done. Richard's lobbying Congress next week." Richard joined, voice low. "I'll testify. Full transparency." Elena met his eyes, forgiveness not full, but budding. "Hold to it." The group moved to a quiet corner, Alex listening intently as they plotted. Scholarships named for Reed, anti-discrimination trainings mandatory in Harrington remnants, community patrols funded to prevent setups like Marcus's. As sun dipped, the event wound down with a symbolic bonfire. Burning replicas of forged documents, flames licking high. Elena tossed one in, watching it curl to ash. Alex beside her. "Burn the past. Build the future." He nodded, throwing his own. "With you." Victoria added hers, fire reflecting in her eyes. "I was part of the problem. Now the solution." Richard hesitated, then joined, his throw firm. No more silence. Nights later, at Elena's new home, foundation provided, modest but warm, she sat with Alex on the porch, stars sharp overhead. "Life threw us apart," Alex leaned in, "but we found our way back." Stories poured. Her nursing days, the slap that sparked it all, Edward's downfall. Alex's questions pierced. "Why didn't you fight sooner?" Elena's hand trembled. "Fear, survival. But regret taught me, speak up or lose everything." He hugged her again. Lesson learned. Months rolled, the foundation thriving, clinics bustling, lawsuits won against corrupt firms, youth programs mentoring kids like Alex once was. Elena led with fire, boardrooms quaking under her demands. "Equity now, no delays." Victoria backed every push, her transformation raw, selling the mansion, living simpler, volunteering daily. I see now. Privilege blinded me. Richard reformed quietly, mentoring at-risk executives. His speech is blunt. I enabled evil. Choose different. A milestone hit. Alex's high school graduation, Elena in the front row, tears fierce as he crossed the stage. Diploma high. For Mom and Dad. Cheers erupted, Victoria clapping wild, Richard smiling faint. Post-ceremony, family dinner, Mississippi soul food, laughter filling the air. Elena raised a glass. To truths uncovered, bonds rebuilt. Glasses clinked, Alex adding, and lessons. Family isn't blood alone. It's fight, forgiveness. The final thread wove at a memorial for Marcus, foundation grounds dedicated in his name. Elena unveiled the plaque, voice steady. He dreamed big, loved hard. His legacy, justice for all. Attendees nodded, stories shared. Old colleagues, survivors touched by the work. Victoria spoke next. We wronged you. Now we honor. Richard placed flowers, silent vow etched on his face. As crowds dispersed, Elena lingered with Alex, hand on the plaque. Your dad's here. In every fight we win. Alex nodded. And in us. They walked away arm in arm, the sun setting golden, hope tangible. Subplots resolved. Elena's family relocated, thriving under foundation aid. Richard's redemption through anonymous donations. Victoria's advocacy earning awards, but she waved them off. It's about the work. In quiet moments, Elena reflected. The slap that froze Victoria, the secrets revealed, the battles won. Lesson etched deep, she whispered to Marcus's memory. Courage over fear, truth over power. Alex overheard, smiling. And love wins. The new family, forged in fire, stepped into tomorrow, unbreakable. The world a bit fairer, their story a beacon for the weary. Laughter echoed from the house, pulling them in. The end not closure, but a vibrant beginning. In the end, this story reminds us that true justice emerges when we confront our prejudices, uncover hidden truths, and embrace the power of redemption. No matter how deep the wounds of inequality run, it teaches that family bonds transcend blood, and standing up against injustice can heal even the most broken lives. What about you? Share your thoughts or personal stories in the comments below. Have you faced similar challenges or witnessed acts of courage that changed everything? Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. See you in the next story.